Denise, you have many years experience in IP in the United States. How is the current COVID-19 situation impacting the legal sector in the States, and which are the major changes you've seen in the last few months?
Well, I think it's primarily what we've seen is the US PTO has responded quickly. On about March 16th, they stopped all in-person visits to their campuses across the country, which was not unexpected. And it was not a bad thing because they had long had a video conference, uh, an examiner video conference established with great tools and opportunities for lawyers to interact with examiners without having to fly across the country and set meetings as they did a number of years ago. And so that piece was up and running and fluent, and that was seamless, I think. In the meantime, they delayed um, all due dates for a period of time, I believe through the 30th or the 1st of May, and have since pushed it another number of weeks. So I think the impact is primarily everybody's just fighting their ground. PTO has graciously extended due dates with a significantly reduced burden on petitions, the rare items that require wet signatures, those kinds of accommodations have been made. And I think law firms and their end clients have been appreciative and recognized that that was necessary.
As the director of IP support services at Effectual Services, you focus on leading projects to refine offerings to better serve your clients. What are the challenges and opportunities the current situation presents in this line of work in particular?
That's a great question. Yes, I think one of the primary things that we've seen is that trigger from in the office to working remotely, which happened almost instantaneously and nationwide, was a real moment for the IP groups. So it was an opportunity for them to have some slip ups, to really shine, to call in support where needed. So we had a number of people reach out. Those business continuity projects that we've all been involved with over the course of our career really met the test, right? In that time when folks needed to go 800, 1200, 1600 people were showing up in offices and suddenly they had to provide that support remotely. So that's been a real transition and something that clients have reached out to us for. I think the other opportunity is simply allowing clients the time and the space to say, we're not hiring right now, but we do need to keep the trains running. So can you help us? So our firm has had some unique opportunities, I think, as a result of COVID. And mostly there's this sort of wait and see, I think, sense out in the IP community. A lot of things have to keep moving forward, but the end clients are so diverse that I think law firms are kind of needing to toggle between forward movement and just kind of tread water for a moment, because your client could be in the electronic space, they could be in social media, they could be in hospitality, they could be in the food industry. It's sort of, some industries have obviously been impacted greatly, and some have been impacted not much, and some are a real mixed bag. When you think about the food industry, I mean, if they serve customers in a restaurant setting, that's a big deal. But if they're processing food and moving it over the roads, that's a different set of circumstances altogether. So the answer is, I think it's a mixed bag.
Interesting. I mean, it seems like your firm, Effectual Services, can really be helping the legal services industry at this time. Many law firms are finding themselves scrambling with work from home structures which they can't support, and Effectual Services can help with that, as well as helping with security, with secure. You guys have already been doing this, working remotely for a while, so you're already prepared
Right.
for the work from the corporations and the law firms.
That's right. Well, our entire model is built on remote support, right? Because our operations team is in India, we're accustomed to having some teams work strictly US hours, some work traditional Indian business hours, and many have an overlap. So it kind of depends on what the client's needs are. Many of our clients appreciate the fact that they send the material, the work to be done to a particular box. They all leave work or finish work if they're not leaving a physical building at 5 p.m. local time in the US. And they count on us to come in overnight, get the work done. And when they show up or log in the next morning, that work is complete and it's ready for them. So I think there are a number of attractive features about having a remote workforce. And again, it's something we're very familiar with, and we've got the flexibility to approach it in a way that makes the clients comfortable, because some of them some of them find this to be very different, very new, very scary. And so how do you engender confidence, right?
Interesting. Right. So this situation, this COVID-19 situation engenders confidence because every law firm now has to be working remotely at this time. And especially I've had the privilege to speak with some patent IP partners in different firms, and they had mentioned that there are a lot of people being let go because of the financial crisis, because of the economy. Um, so this actually, it seems, could also be beneficial because many of them may be going more of contracting work as the work comes in without having the employees there. So this is also a big value that Effectual Services and Denise Caldwell can provide for many firms and corporations.
I think so. I mean, I think the reason that we exist is to provide service. And yes, we're a business and want to have a positive impact on the bottom line of our clients, but it's helping them weather these transition times. You know, we don't know what the IP community will look like in 6 months. Is everybody back in an office? Are some of them back in an office? Have you consolidated some of the work into offices? Um, so yeah, there are a lot of decisions being made, and I think we offer our clients um, flexibility in meeting those challenges.
Interesting. And as part of your job at Effectual Services, you liaise with vendors internationally. How is COVID-19 impacting this international collaboration?
You know, that's a great question. Because this wasn't like a light switch, this pandemic, it's sort of happening in a rolling basis. I'm seeing a very mixed bag of responses from our foreign associates and the people that we have relationships with internationally. Um, some of them have gone through the worst of it and are in the process of recovering. Others are still in sort of this tread water, you know, wait and see mode. So I think always the communication has to continue, and I try to stay in touch with our various clients or prospective clients to remind them that we're here to help and you have options. And sometimes they just want to talk to somebody who's been in the business for decades, you know, and they say, "Can you brainstorm with me for a half an hour on this topic?" And um, I always enjoy that. It helps keep me on my toes. It helps me to learn things about how firms are facing challenges, what those challenges are, what they look like, and how they're addressing them. So I think there's a number um, of bright points at sort of keeping the sense of contact with colleagues around the globe during this incredible time.
Interesting. And you have strong experience working with multiple geographical locations. Do you see the current situation having a financial impact on international IP stakeholders in the States, in any specific industry?
Um, I think that our hospitality and transportation industries are really having a hard time. And as we know, some of those end clients are concentrated in certain geographical areas, right? We've got Boeing in Seattle, we've got a lot of the hospitality end client in the Atlanta region. So I think we're going to see an impact to varying degrees depending on location. But I also think most law firms most healthy ecosystems in a law firm have a good mix of clients, and even their end clients have got geographical diversity. They've got different technology sectors, different client sectors that they're selling to. It's just kind of this domino effect, and you have to keep that in mind and provide solutions that are meaningful for our clients and ultimately their end clients. And I think I said earlier, there's this toggle between the two that has to, you've got to constantly be juggling how do we bring value and how do we stay connected to our community.
And thinking about leadership teams in IP, what do you think are the challenges and opportunities COVID-19 presents for gender equality?
I think um, the big push for women in STEM, I think, is important, and most particularly for young girls in STEM is important. I think the numbers that we're seeing from a graduation perspective and who is entering these fields with this kind of engineering background, this kind of science background, are not terribly encouraging. And I think that we need to see more grassroots push on that. So I'm not sure that that's COVID driven as opposed to simply a vacuum that's being created in society and in a particular discipline in that particular space. So I think that's important. But from a leadership perspective, I think there are a lot of good things that are coming out of this. There is something called the Open COVID Pledge, I believe, opencovidpledge.org. It's a group of lawyers, scientists, and academics that have kind of come together and put a call out to the IP community at large to offer IP assets free of charge under a license to help mitigate and stop COVID. And I think that's a really noble and worthwhile thing for us to be thinking about right now. It isn't the moment for hard driving license agreements. So I think those kinds of community grassroots things are going to be very important um, going forward, so that we're working in a collaborative fashion to have an impact on our world right now.
Yeah, saving lives. And are you referring to compulsory licensing?
No, it's really voluntary. It's asking those uh, IP asset owners to take a public pledge to provide those assets under a free license for a period of time in order to further the mitigation and ultimately wiping out COVID-19.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah, so it seems like the world may be really coming together during this time. And anything else you would like to add that reflects how the legal sector has been impacted by the global reality we're currently living in?
Again, I think it's a moment for us to just pause and not get too reactive and say, let's make sure that people who don't normally work at home are doing it in a way that's comfortable, that's productive, that's healthy, that both supports them personally and the ongoing health of the organization, because it's a constant balance, right? It's a constant, you know, am I achieving some balance between my work and life? But that's just amplified, I think, when folks are working at home. My life is on the other side of the door, and here's my work. And how do I do that? I've worked remotely for the better part of 10 years, largely remotely at least. And I'm accustomed to it, but I think it's very new to a lot of folks. And so it takes some skill, it takes some building and developing new skills to do that in a way that's healthy. So I think that's going to be very important going forward.